You're not responsible. It was wrong. Reach out to me. We'll connect you.
I will never see, speak, or hear from Aaron Smith Levin for the rest of my life.
I've been raised since the age of 4 to follow orders, do as I was told, or risk losing everything.
If we speak out, that's the only way they're going to get the strength to have the courage to do the same.
Why the hell does someone have to escape to get out of a religion?
I'm still shocked by the evil. This is pure evil at work.
Today, on a Thursday special edition, because tomorrow is the 100th episode of the combined effort of Come Get Some and Come Get Some Extra. 100th episode live, 12 p.m. Eastern, noon. I don't know what to expect tomorrow because, we'll talk about that in a minute. So a lot going on. I don't know where to start. Do I start with racism? Do I start with fucking rapists? Do I start with what do I start with? How about I just wrap it all in together? I can do that. Just imagine our fucked up world where it is today, our fucked up president, and this fucked up racist thing, right? Imagine that Donald Trump says, we're going to replace that statue of old General Lee down south with a statue of Hitler to celebrate and fight bigotry and hatred and unify this once great country. How fucked up and backwards would that be? Not that I can't imagine it not happening right now. Well, here we have people like Michael Pena saying stand with Danny Masterson in the face of hate and bigotry and Leah Remedi's Scientology and aftermath. And I couldn't be more physically ill thinking about this. You know, I said on social media, I will stand by Danny Masterson and watch him get handcuffed and taken to prison. I don't believe that there could be so much abuse like what we heard about Tuesday night on Scientology and the aftermath. So much physical and sexual abuse, and so many known cases like this, so many rapists, and the way you fucking fight, because we know this lady was molested by her father. It's practically public record anymore. Everybody knows. They know, we know, everybody knows what happened. And you fight it by saying stand by Sir Rapes-A-Lot, Danny Masterson? Fuck you. What the hell? What the hell is that? It makes me sick to my stomach, and it makes a lot of things more difficult to stomach about this whole fucking narrative. I don't know how this doesn't just end now with this shit. Okay. All right. So this reminds me of tomorrow. I've been doing this show for coming up tomorrow on 100 episodes. And a great chunk of those 100 episodes, almost the majority anymore, is on this subject, the subject of Scientology. Anybody who's listened to me any length of time, anybody who's gotten to know me in any way, knows I wear my heart on my sleeve. So I don't just give myself to a topic or give myself to any cause lightly. And I've dove right into this whole anti-Scientology thing. And I've never, ever in my life focused so much on any cause. And I've pretty much committed so hard to this. And it takes a lot of time. And with 100 episodes coming up, I spent a lot of the last week and a half reflecting on why I started a podcast to begin with, which had nothing to do with race or homosexuality or bullying or terrorism or suicide awareness or spousal abuse or Scientology. It had nothing to do with any of this stuff. And it was all about something very different. And between that and covering Scientology, I kind of lost sight of what I'm trying to do. And I've lost sight of things at home. And something, I don't know what it is yet, but something about how I'm handling doing this podcast has to change. I've changed my mind about 5 times in the last 4 days, so who knows? But tomorrow live on this show on the 100th episode, I will address the future of Come Get Some and Come Get Some Extra. In the meantime, I have a very important interview for you today with Glenda Smith, former rep for the CCHR, and I think you're going to like her a lot. I know I do. Here it is. Okay, today on the show, I have somebody who spent a good amount of time with the Citizens Commission for Human Rights, CCHR, a Scientology foundation against Scientology, against psychiatry. I can't talk today. Today, my guest is one of my favorite people I met recently in the ex-Scientology community, Ms. Glenda Smith over in New Zealand. How you doing, Glenda?
Hi, Chris. I'm doing great. Yeah.
You sound perfectly clear over there in New Zealand. I like the phone connection we have.
Yeah, it's quite a long way between where you are and where I am. Yeah.
Absolutely. So how long were you in Scientology for, if I could ask?
Oh, I was in 20 years. I was not quite 25. I was 24 when I got in back in 1987, and the whole thing fell down about 20 years later. Yes, it was 20 years.
Okay, so how did you find out about Scientology and get interested in it? How did you find out you wanted to be in Scientology?
I was living in Christchurch in South Island here in New Zealand, and the girl that I was sharing a flat with, she found an Einstein flyer in the letterbox, and she bought the book. She bought the Dianetics Modern Science and Mental Health book. And at the time, I wasn't seeking anything. I wasn't actually interested. But she read this book, and she became quite insistent that she wanted to try the techniques on me in this book. And looking back, she wanted me to experience it so that I would then use the methods, or what they call auditing, on her. So she talked me into it, and I had this auditing in the Dianetics book, from the Dianetics book. Again, looking back, I was incredibly ambivalent about what happened. It's, like whatever. But she became very forceful about it all. Now, somewhere in those early weeks, somebody from the Church of Scientology in Auckland telephoned her because she was now on their list of buyers, and it just took off rapid fire. They then, it was probably 2 or 3 weeks later, they sent down some people from Auckland to Christchurch, and there was this Dianetics workshop. Again, I was ambivalent. I didn't want to go. And I remember the morning clearly. It's one of those days you never forget in your life. I had been doing some training to become a travel agent, an international travel agent. And I actually had my exam, which is a pretty intense exam, on a Saturday morning of this workshop. And I said, I can't go. I'm going to be exhausted. It's a 3-hour exam. I just want to come home and sleep. And my friend, she went to the workshop in the morning. She rang me about 12 in the afternoon. She said, I'm coming to get you. And I said, no, I'm too tired. I'm not doing that. And she just said, I'm coming to get you, and hung up. Now, looking back already, she was being highly manipulated. That they wanted more people, and she was going to get me, and they were using her to get me. So she turns up at my house. I'm still objecting. I'm not coming. I am far too tired. I'm not doing this workshop thing. And she just, I think she had one of the Scientologists with her, I don't remember now. But she just wouldn't back down. And it was really weird to see her that way, because normally she was quite a reserved kind of girl. It was just, she changed. So it's really weird. So, long story short, I ended up going to this workshop, and that was it. The phone calls kept coming from the Scientology organisation in Auckland, and I think it was only a matter of weeks, maybe 4 or 5 weeks. They recruited her, my friend, and I, and we travelled to Auckland, and we spent 6 weeks full-time training. The plan was we were going to go back to Christchurch and open a mission, and that is exactly what happened. And the full-time training is 9 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. I think we had, occasionally we might have a whole day off at the weekend or a half day.
Wow.
It was more like, yeah, it was just full on. And we did all the basic training, the communications, what they call TRs or training routines training, the whole lot. They were trained in hard. We trained on all of the staff training. We then identified under somebody in that Auckland organisation. In 6 weeks, I was a completely different person. You've never seen such a shift in a person's personality, in my behaviour, in my thinking. I was a full-fledged indoctrinated Scientologist.
You didn't notice it?
A very strange thing happened. When we got back to Christchurch, I'd had some of my belongings stored with a friend of mine, and we went to his place of work to organise a key so I could get my things. And I remember walking into the reception area where he worked, and he looked at me and he goes, "Glenda?" And he sort of went backwards, but there was such a sort of demeanour about me. I was so full of this intention that I was going to save the world using Scientology. And I remember him reeling backwards, and my girlfriend noticed it too. So outwardly, even, I was behaving completely differently. Did I notice it? No, because the transition was done. Yes, it was intense. If you study something from 9 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, it's intense. But it was done, the methods in Scientology are so, people say the lower level stuff isn't, it can be helpful and they think, good things about it. But the lower level stuff is the root system or the foundation stuff to hold you to get through that pretty shop front stuff to turn you into a working, on purpose, highly focused, dedicated, fanatical Scientologist. So that you don't notice that it's happening to you. No, I didn't notice it. My girlfriend, I remember her saying things to me like, "Wow, you're so changed." And because you're so embroiled, like you don't see anybody else other than Scientologists at that time, that's really supportive. So there's a lot of social cohesion going on to keep you there, and you don't notice that you're heavily changing. But outsiders, like the guy that I left my stuff stored with, he noticed it. The minute I walked in the door at his workplace, he noticed how different I was.
Okay. I mean, did you sort of kind of think, I get a little echo, but did you sort of think that you were just better, or maybe that's why it changed, because you were just, they were improving you? Is that a thought that went through your mind?
Yeah, that was possibly definitely one of the thoughts for me, because we were training to the staff, and we had studied there's a foundational policy letter written by Warren Buffett called Keeping Scientology Working. Number one, series one. The whole series of policies about how to keep Scientology working. And the first one, I think it's got 8 pages. It's a very long policy letter. And so our focus was on taking it to the world. As trainee staff members, yeah, you do have people say, "Hey, this is making me better and more capable and whatever." But mainly, my girlfriend and I, our thoughts, and certainly my thoughts, were this is making me capable of taking this to the people and saving the world and concepts like that. So I was geared heavily for planetary saving, planetary caring, as they call it. And I was the conduit, so to speak. It really came about the world more than it became about me. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you, KSW, I've heard it a lot, the Keeping Scientology Working. Where in the process is that introduced? How far into you starting your training classes does that happen?
As a person who was training staff, it was introduced probably in week 3.
Week 3.
Once the foundational communication course and how to study course. There were a few very basic courses that were we did first, and then we hit straight into the keeping Scientology working stuff. So I'd been associated with the group about 3 weeks before I had to study that, and I remember it took me ages because it's a long policy there and a lot of concepts that really kind of shift you out of the normal world, out of how you see the world as a citizen, into seeing the world as a Scientologist. Keeping Scientology, number one, is full blown, we're going, there's no turning back kind of feeling. And so a lot of people really struggle with it. My friends struggled with it. I saw other people that struggled with it. The first time through, it's sort of like being hit over the head with a baseball bat, but for your own sort of feeling. You are now entering this massive tunnel that you're not meant to return back from.
And you just accept that. This is it. This is, okay, I'm all in now. I'm all in and I'm just doing this. Is that pretty much your mindset?
Not my mindset, but looking back, it wasn't my mindset. It was the intense pressure and mindset around me from the people that were training us and the other staff member. That they are turning their intention based on their training is that we are going to turn you into a Scientologist. We are going to turn you into, with this high intention, this high clear. There is nothing else in life but Scientology. And I know to outsiders that sounds really strange, because we're so used to having options, and we take those options for granted too. We'll shop around. But that isn't what it's like when you're training for your staff members. There are no options. You are gonna be in this, and you are going to be good at it, and you are going to be part of this. And it's done. I think looking back, in a sense, a strong violation that I experienced once I woke up to what had really gone on. It's done without your consent. There's a thing, undue influence. Yes, this is undue influence.
Yeah, that's
not aware of it.
Undue influence is huge in this. I think that's actually a big part of it. Because I was talking to Chris Shelton about that. I was like, we have to find a way. Or law enforcement. Law has to find a way to be able to regulate, rogue religions that are cult-like. And one of the things that's been used before apparently has been the concept of undue influence. I'm not sure about applying it in legally, but it is a big piece of what's happening here, it seems.
Absolutely. I mean, I look at my own personal experience and what happened to my girlfriend, because I was observing her and she was observing me. We had been flatmates. We had been sharing, a place, a flat. And so we knew each other prior to this experience.
Right.
We knew a lot about each other. When you share it with someone, you do. And so we watched the changes. But at one point, I remember her wanting to go home. And oh my God, you have not seen anything until you've seen how the Scientology staff managed her, or we used to call it handled her to stay. And I can actually still repeat what was said, and here it is. We were staying, she was in tears, she just wanted to go home, she didn't want to keep training, she didn't want to do the Scientology. And this guy said to her, and he was like a real fanatical Scientologist, he was second generation, and he said to her, you can go home, but you've got to live with what you've walked away from here. And you're participating in Satan's will. You can go home, you're free to go home. But it's just the most manipulative thing they've ever heard.
He put a guilt trip on her.
Oh, times 100.
No.
She could go home. He would even take her out to the airport. She could go home, but she would have to live with the fact that she was now part of the world falling apart, the world demise, the world exploding in a big splat of insanity. She could go home. Manipulation is its finest. So she stayed.
Can I ask what year this was?
1987.
Okay, so I've heard before, and I don't know how accurate this is. I've heard something about the fact that they were trying to tell people we already got to the year 2000 to save this world. Is that something you heard in your inner?
No.
Okay, so I heard that from somewhere else. Okay, that may not be accurate then.
I think these sorts of little button pushing things, whatever you want to call them, that you've just mentioned, can become a little localized. You know, like I was in the Australia, mainly in New Zealand, and a little bit associated with the Australian branch of Scientology. And my observation now that I've been out 10 years and read a lot of other people's stories and things, you do get slightly localized go buttons. I can't think of any. We had weird little things that we would use down here that the Americans wouldn't know what we were talking about. So it does get a slightly local flavour, but it's only absolutely minimal. Most, like 99.9% of the stuff that you are dealing with is coming straight out of L. Ron Hubbard's writing, straight out of his mouth, and is coming from international level in America via the continent, in Australia in this case, and into New Zealand. Original thinking, I still think so. You know, there's no original thinking in Scientology.
Right. So when you saw this happen, did you recognize that when you saw it, or only in hindsight that she was being manipulated to stay?
Only in hindsight.
Only in hindsight. Okay. And you believe the person saying that, even though they're trying, I think that person's probably trying to save a stat, right?
Yeah, because he was actually the one that had recruited us. And the recruitment process involved a lot of, like Scientology is run on statistics. You sell a bulk data with the statistic. If you recruit somebody, that is, everything you do is put into account, into a statistic. And he was the guy that had come to Christchurch and actually got the Church of Scientology contracts out and got us to sign them. We would actually sign them once we got to Auckland. But I remember signing my contract. We were in a house. He'd come to this house we were staying. We were sitting on the floor by a fireplace. I can still remember how in the fireplace. I can remember all the detail of it. And he was the one that had got the statistic for recruiting us to start. And he was watching us like a hawk. You know, he couldn't lose his statistics and everything else that was flying off of that. It was quite a huge move to recruit us and to send us back to Christchurch and start a mission. This is a big deal. This is really a big deal. He didn't want her to leave, but he had to try and manipulate it and make him look like this guy. And remain bonded to her, remained her friend. This level of manipulation, there's a lot of, the person has to, that's what you're trying to become. You have to be the good guy, but you're actually focused on the scores. You're actually focused on the game, but you have to remain the good guy. So he was trying to be nice to her at the same time as he's trying to pin her to staying and doing the training. It's messy.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's this stage of total belief, right? You totally believe in what you're doing, but you got to make your stat. And to make your stat, you have to manipulate. And I guess what I'm hearing a lot of people say, and you'll probably confirm that, is that the end justifies the means. Well, yeah, I'm lying and I'm being manipulative, but it's for your own good.
Yeah, and it's good for the cause. For me, everything became about the cause, expanding and getting Scientology into broader society. That was my absolute focus. Once I was trained after the first 6 weeks, that was my absolute focus. That was my first thought when I woke up. It was the last thought before I went to sleep. And it stayed that way the whole time I was in Scientology. It was a complete focus on Scientology is the way to save the world. It was the only way. And so when every thought said that, looking back in Scientological terms, and I say this with a little guarded because I don't like what happened at all, but they made me into a really good Scientologist. It was really good training.
Right.
They did a good job.
Okay. So did you? Is this when you were doing the church, when you're doing your own unit here? That was before staff, right? You went from there to staff, or does this count as staff? I'm not sure how that works with the church that you. Go ahead.
Basic unit. You mean?
Yeah.
I was contracted straight away to get that training without getting into all the how this works. I had become a staff member. I remember we flew from Christchurch to Auckland. I think it was a Sunday. It was a Sunday or a Saturday. Saturday. It was a Saturday. And I was a staff member on Sunday morning. I had contracted for, I think it was a 5-year contract. I was a staff member the next day.
Okay. So how did staff look to you? When you look back at staff, how did that feel, what you were doing there?
Because of the training, like the foundational concepts that were rolled up very fast, and every conversation, like we were manhandled with kid gloves, would be the expression. We were kid gloves. My girlfriend and I were kid gloves all the way. They weren't going to lose us. They were going to train us, and they were going to send us back and start this mission. So we were kind of almost monitored in a kid glove way. No outside influences allowed. Like if I wanted to call anybody from, like my former flatmate in Christchurch, like what do you want to talk to them about? It was just absolutely invasive stuff going on. But it was, when you're being love bombed, love bombing is delightful manipulation. You're constantly being made to feel you are special. Mm-hmm. And which, I now look back at my own and what was going on with me, how did I come to the point where I was that vulnerable to becoming involved in a very controlling, destructive system. Somebody's telling you you're perfect for this job and this is going to be wonderful, we're so lucky we found you, and, they're just, it's like the most intense seduction. It just makes, like, dating seduction look like kids' play. That this was intense. This was like you are being seduced to help save the world. And they're concepts that you don't run into in everyday life. So you're not prepared for that. I've never run into anything so intense. And it felt good. Admission, it did. I was brilliant at, they'd chosen me because I was going to be brilliant at taking this amazing Scientology stuff to the world. There's something highly seductive about that. And I know for my girlfriend, it was the same, like she'd just been this quiet little young woman who's a bit lost, and, she had insecurities and lacked confidence like many, many humans. And, here they were telling her how marvelous she was and how valuable she was. And, you did that enough the first few times, and it pins you to it. And so, yeah, it was a lot about, yes, feeding the ego and feeling good about yourself, but it was something that was so much bigger than me, and something I'd never dreamed possible. Looking back, it was surrealism. It was just so surreal, but it appealed, and I think it also appealed to the inner goodness that we will carry, to be kind, to want the world to be a better place. All those thoughts that, they're not unique. All of us would like the world to be slightly better and a greater place to bring kids up and so forth. But all of those go buttons will appeal to.
Yeah. So when staff seems like the place for me where you probably work the hardest for the least. It's like the most thankless job. Is it not?
Yes, it is. Having said that, that's not the material, wages and what we normally would associate with a job in the real world, but you get this, and again, it's the social cohesion that's going on with those around you. You get this sense of elevated importance. You get the sense of superiority, and you're trained. I mean, there are policy lists where I don't remember the names of them now, but I remember it said the final stuff search too, which is, the early basic training. And, you're now in the top 10% in the world and the whole trainer. So these kind of lofty concepts are pushed into you. So you get this sense of superiority. This is the most important job. Not, you're more important than the leadership of your nation. You're more important than anything that's going on outside the structure of psychology. You are saving the entire world. And I guess for outsiders, that sounds completely batty, and I actually think it is myself now. But when that seduction has been layered in so carefully, you really buy into that you're doing the ultimate role. And that if you try to walk away from that, say you do have a moment of self-doubt or doubt of the group or what you're doing, that is you either self-correct it very fast or it is corrected by the ethics section. You're not allowed doubt. Doubt is the enemy of a Scientologist, and you will do everything and anything to avoid that because you now think you are superior. You now think you have the only answers to the problems of the entire world. So yeah, that kind of holds to it.
So that fear of doubt is one of those things that keeps you from looking on the internet, that keeps you from associating with other people and actually caring to find out any more than what you know, because what you know is right.
Yeah, doubt shuts down your analytical or critical thinking skills or ability to observe a situation in a broad sense. Doubt turns into fear, and Scientology is full of fear. Fear that you're going to lose your opportunity at your total freedom. Fear that you're going to be that person that doesn't contribute enough and save the world. So fear is used as an intense form of manipulation and keeping you at the coalface, keeping you within that system. When I very fast forward here, when I first worked out that I'd been involved in something incredibly dangerous and unhealthy and all those concepts, the fear was so intense. Now, what Scientology did for me, and there are authors that write about this, and it's Scientology actually installs phobias. You can actually install phobia into another human. I.e., we all know that if we react around spiders, around little children, we're going to make them scared of spiders. So we try to be brave when we're around a spider, right? It's that kind of concept. But in Scientology, certain things that L. Ron Hubbard wrote, regarding the future of the planet and eternity and all these big concepts, he installs phobias. And one of them, of course, is about psychiatry and psychology. They are just evil. And so I was phobic about psychiatry and psychology. I mean, they were just evil. I was terrified that if I left Scientology, I would die. I was terrified that, and this is irrational. Yes, this is irrational. This is a phobia. I was terrified that my future, my eternity, not just 10 years down the line, but my eternity was going to be just unbelievably dark and I might use the word hell. I was just full of fear. I couldn't leave Scientology because of the fear of my future, of what I might be, just the unspeakable, the abyss, all those horrible concepts installed into me through various policy leaders and various things that L. Ron Hubbard said. So a lot of people, fear is the great, one of the key things that holds people into. Well, it certainly held me in all those years. If I ever had a doubt that this isn't working for me, or this isn't comfortable, or some sort of, self-worth-based thought, the fear would kick in about 10 seconds. I can't, I've got to fix myself. I'll go and listen to a tape, or I'll go and do some ethics work on myself. I was self-correcting all the time because of that fear. and it's a very internal mental prison system. You don't need compound walls. Yes, there are compound walls involved in the Scientology structure, particularly in the United States, and in Sydney there are SEAL groups that are behind the compound walls, but most Scientologists don't need walls. You keep yourself on it. This prison wall that you're trained to put up, the outside world, and it is bad, and you're meant to just stay in your little tunnel, or everything's all uninhibited.
Wow. Okay, so you said something about you don't want to be the one that didn't pull your slack, that didn't make the difference to save the world. Was there like a competition between between the people in staff? Were you trying to be better than each other, or did you guys work together? How did that work in there?
Scientology is quite hierarchical, can't talk, and it's quite competitive. You do tend to look, you do look at, particularly with staff. If somebody's statistics are down, we would call that a down stat person. That's kind of looked down on. That's sort of like a bit of an ethics problem. So you are constantly pushing yourself to have your production statistics high and monitoring the staff members beside you and your team members that everybody's pulling their weight. So you're kind of driving each other based off some of what Aaron Hubbard had written, but it also becomes this internal silent language of ensuring that each other's toeing the line, that they're working hard. It's a very intense sort of, imagine looking over your shoulder the whole time and, metaphorically speaking, you're digging a ditch and you're meant to dig out 100 shovelfuls every day, and you're looking over your shoulder all the time to check that everybody's, doing that. It's very slavish. Looking at it now, I've been out 10 years, looking at it now, I look at it as this sort of unique kind of mini culture that strange things happen, and you are driving each other, but it's almost silently at times. It's interesting how people will just do things. It's almost like a process of osmosis. And you don't know why you're doing things a certain way, and you sort of just pick it up from your environment, from those around you.
You just know that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, you're not sort of even fully aware of it.
Okay. It just, to me, when I hear people talk about their experiences as staff, it always reminds me of like a sales floor or a commissioned sales floor. That's what I always envision.
Oh, that's a bit like that, yeah. And it's in certain areas certainly like that. Like people are selling books, what they call registrars or regs.
Right.
And they're right on the sort of front line of money, and selling books and services and all of that. That's very much what you were talking about, yeah.
Okay, so I think you told me off the air you wanted to go to Sea Org, but you ended up in CCHR. How did that all come about?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we did this basic training for 6 weeks. We went back to Christchurch and we did start a mission. And it was the only mission in New Zealand at that time, and it's gone now. It's not even a legal entity anymore. But then I wanted more. I wanted to do ages like New Zealand. Wow, it's kind of embarrassing to admit now, but anyway, here we are. And so I wanted to move. The SEAL guy came to Christchurch, and there were intense discussions about me joining the SEAL in Sydney, Australia. At that time, and this is also like, as a non-SEAL staff member, you have to pay for it gets a little complicated here, but I had racked up a bit of debt to do my purification rundown, and because of that debt, that disqualified me to go to the SEAL, because you have to go into the SEAL without owing without any death. And then the Auckland organisation wanted me there, and so I sort of settled to go to a higher org in Auckland. And so I got, I really wanted, every time field missions would come down, I would always be working with them. I mean, it's crazy, but I remember going out and doing red stuff with field members in Christchurch and Auckland. I was very attracted to the field dedication, I think, because my focus was so intense, in saving the world using the Scientology method. So I was very attracted to the field dedication. And on and off over the years, I did sort of toy with the idea of joining the field. And, all I can say now is thank goodness it never happened.
Right.
Now that I know what, all I had was this sort of illusionary view of it. Now that, I've heard the stories of many who've left, and wow, I'm grateful and I'm humbled. But, oh my God, these things they go through. But, sometimes it's just a bunch of smoke and mirrors, and that's definitely an area. But, so I moved to Auckland and I joined the classified organisation there as a registrar, and the debt caught up with me, so I took some time out, and I was probably off for 18 months, and I paid back the debt, I used the money and I paid the debt. And then I went, there was quite a strong CCHR, this is Constitutional Human Rights Unit in Auckland, and one thing led to another, and I became very interested in the work they were doing, and I went and became a staff member in CCHR. And to get into that, because I'd left staff without finishing a contract, I had to do special, what they call the men's project. And this is something that I don't normally talk about, but I will. What the heck, it happened.
Okay.
CCHR in the structure of Scientology is actually run very close to its Office of Special Affairs, OPA, and that's the intelligence branch of Scientology. It's the area that handles the public relations. It's sort of the interface between the group and the big, wide, ugly world.
Gotcha.
And so in Auckland, they literally worked in the same office, literally, and the OPA staff and the CCHR staff.
Interesting.
And, so for me to get into CCHR, because I hadn't completed this contract and that needed sorting out, I was asked to, and I was made to sign a document that I would never speak about this, but here it is.
Are you okay to do this? Is this going to get you in trouble in any way legally?
No.
Okay.
I won't say why I know it's okay, but I absolutely know that people are very good.
Okay.
So I was asked to infiltrate what squirrel growth. Squirrel growth is a bunch of a term that Alan Hubbard used. A squirrel is a person who's using Scientology outside of the standard Scientology group. So they've sort of wandered off on their own and they're using Scientology and then it's meant to. It's a violation of trademark.
The church doesn't see a dime.
Sorry?
The church doesn't see a dime, therefore it's a problem. Yeah.
They've lost, basically, the church has lost control and they stopped losing control. So there was some squirrels in Auckland and the church wanted to know what they were up to. So I took on this fake identity and, this is a church. I look at it now and I think, what? So I went along to the meetings and so forth. And then I reported back to the local OPA what I had observed in his right reports. It was just totally surreal, Did I lie and did I spy? Yes, I did. All right, I did lie and spy. And so that was my amends project to join the CCHR staff. And what happened to that information that I put in on those people, the squirrel people, I don't know. Everything's so compartmentalized. I mean, you honestly don't even know what the person next to you's doing in that area. What are you working on? You don't ask that. You don't ask, well, what are you working on? That's just far too open. So anyway, I joined CCHR, and that was done on a standard church Scientology contract. It wasn't. Later on, they did have to restructure because they try to keep CCHR as a completely separate legal entity, but they screwed up in this case. I was on a standard Scientology church contract.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's all sorts of complex labyrinths involved in all this. But we were run on a day-to-day basis by OSA. Now, when I say we were run by OSA, I mean you did your work each day, counted up your statistics based on what the definitions of it was, and those figures and numbers and reports went to OSA, who then put it on the telex machine and sent it to Sydney, Australia by 10 o'clock that night. They say CCHR is separate. Really? No, it's not true. CCHR is completely part of the OSA network. It totally is. Yeah, they count up different production funds, but it all goes to OSA.
It doesn't surprise me at all.
I saw that for years. That's like saying, well, Tuesday is Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday is Tuesday. It's just, I don't know why. I mean, I do know why they try to keep it for the public relations issue. They do try to make it look separate, and it is here in New Zealand. I believe it's the same in other countries. Legally, it is registered as a separate named group. Absolutely, but the internal workings are completely
run by. Yeah.
Wow. And all that hoo-ha. Yeah, to the outside world, it's put up as a separate entity. This is CCHR, this is the Church of Scientology, wherever. This is, Narcan or whatever. But it's all being daily managed by Scientology all at the international level in the States, in the United States. Crazy.
So, what was it about CCHR that got your attention, that made you want to be a part of that when you were believing in everything?
I think that actually looking back, and I've done a lot of reflecting and a lot of people work since I left. There was something that had happened in my life prior to all of this cutting, and I had worked in an old folks rest home, and there'd been a lady there. Cutting a long story short, she ended up in the local psychiatric hospital, and they'd given her electric shock treatment. And I'd known her prior to the treatment, and then I went to the hospital and saw her, and she was just so different. And I actually found something I wrote about that. I write in the background of my life, all my life. And I'd gone to visit the old lady, and she was so not there, and she was so full of fear, and it really impacted on me. And I did write about that. I still have that little piece I wrote about going back to see Thelma. And so I had a sense that there was a cruelty about psychiatry from this very limited personal experience. So the whole concept, which was, again, Hubbard writes about it in general Scientology references that people are studying in the general course room, but the stuff that I was trained on as principles within CCHR was even more intense. That psychiatry was evil. And so now that I know what I know, Hubbard was, psychiatry didn't like his methods, going back to the very early 50s when this was started.
Right.
And, he was kind of, he was pretty anti anybody that didn't agree with him.
Yep.
He be that me done at this level, or he really didn't like anybody saying no. And so he'd had this run-in with mental health people in the United States, and then again some issues came up in the United Kingdom, and so he just kept, certainly around the 68, 69, which was the period of most of the references that we were trained in, heavily trained in. And he just hammers the mental health associations and so forth and psychiatry. So that kind of really, because of this one very sad thing that I had witnessed with this darling old lady that I had cared for in rest home, it just sort of it just sort of made sense to me in my own crazy review. And I think also, none of this is black and white. I think I've asked myself probably literally a million times, why did I do this? Why did I join? And what was it about me that made me vulnerable to this? What was this? And I'm the only person that can answer that question. A million people can come up with a million different ideas, but it's actually me that's going to answer it. So the last 10 years, I've really asked a lot of hard questions of myself. And one of them was my lack of sense of belonging, which went back to my own childhood. Hands up who had a perfect childhood. There's very few. Very few of us have dealt a really cool childhood. And I'm not saying my childhood was bad. I couldn't say that, but there were really non-optimum things about my childhood as well, where I didn't feel I belonged, and I didn't have a strong sense of myself. And so something comes along and love bombs me and tells me I'm really important and I'm really valuable. I sucked it up like, the cream. So the CCHR thing was the next level of really focusing on what had been, what is wrong with this world. And of course, the psychs are the reason that everything's wrong in this world. That's what I was trained in. And I could actually go, this is the level of training that we were put through. I could take any situation, pick a situation in life, non-optimum, a marriage breaking up down the road, a kid falling off their bike, a beggar, just anything involving human beings that was non-optimum, a bridge falling down, collapsing unexpectedly. I could then line that through to where psychiatry was involved.
Wow.
It was insane. We would draw that.
So the psychiatry field somehow did something to make that bridge vulnerable, or they use some psychiatry things and tools to suggest that it doesn't need to be reinforced. Just any kind of excuse you can come up with.
It's this kind of filtered thinking, if you like, filtering a tunnel-like vision of taking. For example, a guy falls off the bike outside your home and grazes his knee badly. I would have it, but how can he do that? He's just kind of undone all this. But okay, so he's had an accident, so he's not fully aware of himself and his environment, and I would use Scientology language around that.
Oops, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Are you right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. And so he falls off his bike, and this is because he's dulled down because of a psych-influenced education system. He's possibly taking psychiatric medications. I could have probably put 4 or 5 things on a simple thing like a guy falling off the push bike. It was just, it's very hard to explain how full my head was with crazy content. It was just full on.
Okay, so that is part 1 with Glenda Smith. Next week on Friday, I will return with Glenda. It's a lot more to be discussed about. She'll talk more about CCHR and some of their practices and the things that she didn't like seeing, how she came to wake up, and how that affected her marriage. And it's a pretty deep second part. Glenda is one of the most detailed, one of the most thorough representations of the mindset I saw here in this interview and heard. And I really thank Glenda for coming on and doing this. She's a wonderful lady. Another brave new voice being heard, which I think is wonderful. Again, tomorrow is number 100, and it's 100% live. So tune in for that. Until then, stay connected, and that about sums it up.
You have been listening to Come Get Some Extra on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, YouTube, and many other streaming services where available. As always, stay connected, and that about sums it up.